Good evening. I'm Tiffany Graham-Golden, Senior Manager of Marketing, Membership, and Events for the American Film Institute, and I just would like to introduce our moderator, Programming Director for the Toronto International Film Festival, Tom Powers.
Thank you very much. So we have a few guests to bring down. First, please welcome the director of this film, Stanley Nelson.
One, two.
And then
One, two.
one of the people who helped pave for this film from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, Jennifer Lawson. And the co-director of the Advancement Project, Judith Brown Dianis. So, Stanley, let me start with you. You know, the Black Panthers have a complicated legacy. Lots of past profiles have either tended to glorify aspects of them or demonize aspects of them. You know, you chose to really dive into the gray area and multiple angles. You know, can you talk about that approach? What you felt you wanted to say about the Black Panther legacy? There's shelves and shelves of books written about the Black Panthers. You know, some other documentary films that touch upon them. What did you want to do?
Sure. Before I start, I just want to introduce the producer of the film, Lorenz Grant. Okay, what was the question again? No, just joking. You know, I think that one of the funny things when we started making this film is, you know, I would say to people, I want to make a film about the Black Panthers, and people say, oh, well, haven't there been enough films about the Panthers? And I would say, well, which films are those, you know? And because I don't think that there have been. I think that there were, you know, films about individual Panthers. There have been films where the Panthers have kind of been included in larger stories, but there has not, as far as I knew, been a film kind of about the rise and fall of the Black Panther Party. And so I wanted to, you know, talk about that. And as we got into it, you know, we saw more and more just through the images that the Panthers, you know, you see the images in the film, and we don't kind of, there's no narration, we don't try to throw it at you, but you see, you know, that there were, you know, tons of white people in the audience. You see the support of white people and Asians and Latinos, you know, for the Panthers. You know, so we really wanted to give that feeling of you know, how the Panthers were back in the day, you know, what people thought about the Panthers back then. And I think, you know, one of the things that J. Edgar Hoover says that he wants to do is discredit the Panthers. And, you know, that's what they did.
Now, how much in the course of this did you feel like you were doing primary research?
You know, a lot of it was primary research. I mean, there was no book that kind of we could use that was like this textbook. So, you know, a lot of the Panthers wrote kind of their own memoirs, and there were a lot of books about, you know, individual pieces of the Panthers. And there's much more scholarship that's coming out, you know, now about the Panthers. But there was no kind of, you know, book about the whole Panther movement to kind of use. So a lot of it we had to kind of piece together from different sources.
Jennifer, introducing the film, Stanley talked about the difficulty for going out to funders with this film. You and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, who I think have supported a lot of Stanley's past work, stepped up to do that. Can you talk about your interest and what spoke to you about this project?
Well, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, we see ourselves as the stewards of the federal appropriation for public media, and that this project and Stanley's work just represents so perfectly what we believe that the corporation stands for, and that is that stories that then tell the sort of real sides of America, the aspects of our culture, our history that we don't see on television. And that's what was so important to us. And so we've been really proud to support this work by Stanley, as well as some of his other absolutely, you know, stellar productions.
And so in going out and supporting a project like this, I mean, do you ever come across, you know, constituents or colleagues who say, like, you're supporting what?
Of course.
And how do those conversations go?
Well, as I stick to what I just said, which is that we are extremely proud to support Stanley's work.
Judith, your organization, the Advancement Project, you work on racial justice with grassroots movements. You were telling me before that, you know, right now you're working on projects in Ferguson, Ohio, Baltimore, and I believe you were seeing the film for the first time tonight. What does the film, you know, say to you about the work you're doing today?
Sure. Well, first, I'm just honored to be here with Stanley and to share this evening with him. His work always not only touches my heart and my soul, but really is closely connected to the work that we do at Advancement Project. And I said to him when I first saw him, you and your timing, your timing is impeccable. Because right now, as I watch this, I was sitting with my colleague Scott Roberts, who's doing a lot of the work in our office around the movement for Black Lives, and I was sitting there thinking about the parallels of the moment, the 10-point program of the Black Panther Party that we're still working on. Police brutality, them starting out of the need for self-defense around police brutality, and now we have this movement for Black Lives that is grown out of the same concern, but also around Black people loving Black people and wanting to stand for our community, wanting to protect our community, wanting to fight for that change. And the fact that, in fact, we're seeing the backlash of police also in the work. Most recently, there was a statement put out by the Fraternal Order of Police in River City Fraternal Order of Police, which is in Louisville, Kentucky, basically threatening the protesters. And many protesters are pulling back now. And knowing that the work that we're doing as we do the work, people are being, I mean, when you go up against the police, that is the biggest show of courage that you can have. And so to see young people on the streets going toe-to-toe with the police to say that Black Lives Matter is incredible, and this is the moment that we're in, and this film definitely will give people the courage to continue in that fight.
Stanley, as the film has been playing at film festivals and other special screenings since it has premiere at the Sundance Film Festival in January and the lead up to it opening here on September 18th.
Right here.
Can you talk to me about, you know, what you've been hearing from audiences?
You know, the audience reaction has just been overwhelming. I mean, we didn't know, you know, what to think as we were making the film. You know, the editor's joke was always, well, wait till they have the congressional hearing about this film. You know, it's all going to come crashing down. But since we made the film, you know, CPB and especially PBS have been really, really supportive of the film. And, you know, you saw, you know, we sold out Thursday night. We had people sitting on the steps. We sold out tonight. You know, we went to the Sheffield, England Film Festival, and we sold out the theater twice, and they added another screening, and they sold that one out. You know, and that's in England. You know, so you know the audience reaction has just been incredible. So, you know, we're looking forward to getting this film out there, and you know, we have a 15-city theatrical release starting in the fall, and September 2nd in New York, and then we're here for a week, September 18th, right in this theater. So, you know, let people know. I mean, we want to work with as many different groups as we can. If you work with a group, come see us after. Lorenz is here, I'm here. You know, especially if you work with young people. Because, you know, we think that this is a film that we really want young people to see because the Panthers were young, you know, and these were young people, you know, and we're here, you know, 50 years later talking about these young people who started this movement, you know, and I think it's important to understand that for young people to understand that they can make change. Because so many times, you know, young people have not seen change being made by them, and so it's important that they understand that. So that's kind of where we are with the film. We're just really excited about the reaction. Again, we didn't know what the reaction would be, to the film, but it's been great.
Stanley, I want to ask you 2 questions about the interviews in this film, then I'm going to go to the audience for questions, so start thinking of good ones. If I'm not mistaken, there's not a new interview with Bobby Seale in the film, and I wonder made me wonder about your approach to other people to interview. As you document in the film, there's a lot of factionalization within the Panther Party. What was that approach like to get people to talk? We just tried to approach people honestly and tell them what we were doing. We just couldn't work out an arrangement with Bobby to be in the film, to participate. And that saddens me, but we tried our best to do that. But we just tried to be as honest as we could. One of the great things that happens now in the age of internet is that people talk to each other, and they're able to say, hey, we think these people really want to try to tell our story in an honest way. Frankly, there were people that we couldn't interview on the same day because they couldn't meet in the in the hallway or in the elevator. But besides that, it was just a matter of trying to get people to talk and to understand what it is we were trying to do, and that we weren't FBI agents, because there's a certain amount of paranoia that still exists. And I want to ask you about the interviews you did with former FBI agents and former police officers who are very much on the other side of this story.
Yeah, I think that when you interview the other side, be it police officers or FBI agents, or and we did Freedom Riders and Freedom Summer, Southern racists. I think that it just strengthens the story of the film. I want to hear from them. I wanted to hear what the police were thinking, what the FBI was thinking, and that was one of the hardest things for us to do, was to find people who could talk. But I think it's really important for the film to hear. Imagine the film if you didn't see those cops talking about what they faced, and what their people. So I think it was essential, and we were kind of always we were always pushing to try to find those FBI agents and cops who were willing to talk about.
Can you shed more light on what that negotiation is like? You call up, Mr. Former LAPD who shot up the Panther Party headquarters.
I have to say that frankly, Lorenz does that work. She'll be in the hall. You should talk to Lorenz. She is the greatest, person ever in convincing people to talk. But finally, it's something I said last night, is that people want to talk. Usually, people want to tell their story, and they want to talk. And I think if you approach them openly and honestly, a lot of times people will talk that you might not think would. So I just think it's a matter of just kind of being honest about what we're trying to do, and just to continue to talk to them, and hope that they agree.
Let's take some questions from the audience. I'm going to start here with this.
Thank you very much. My question is...
Since you're so close.
Thank you. My question is, when you decided to do this story, did you have a particular perspective in mind when you started, or did the story come together as you started going through the materials and speaking to the different subjects?
I think when I started the film, I thought that the Panthers weren't the demons that they've come down to be, and that we wanted to try to give a rounded story of the Panthers. I think that some of the elements that came to prominence, we learned later on. So the women's role in the Panther Party, we knew there were women, and we knew that there were some strong women, but we didn't realize kind of how central the role was. So some of the other things just came to us as we were going. The FBI piece, we knew that the FBI, there's always this rumor, in the black community, in the left community, the FBI destroyed the Panthers. Well, we found the documents that kind of proved that, and so we didn't have to, it wasn't rumor anymore. There were documents that backed that up. So I think, it just got a lot richer as we went along.
Stanley, what are your own personal memories of the Panthers? When did you become aware of them, and what was that consciousness?
I was 15 or so when 16 when the Panthers came into being in New York City, and like so many other people, especially in the North, I was like, wow, they're talking about things that concern me and my community, police brutality, the bad health care, bad housing, that whole piece that we were dealing with, in my community, and it was. So it was galvanizing, and then the Panthers had that look that we talk about in the film. I mean they look so cool, so it was just so different from the looks that other groups had. You had Martin Luther King, who and Ralph Abernathy and those guys who were preachers, and they were wearing suits and ties and very buttoned down. And then you had the Nation of Islam that was also, they were wearing suits and they were very but this was something different. This was very cool, and it also wasn't religious based. And I think that was another important piece of the Panthers, So, a lot of the movement in the South was religious based, and obviously the Muslims, the black Muslims were religion. So this was something that was different. It wasn't about religion. It was about, change.
Is a question right here, sir?
Yeah, can you just...
I hope everybody heard that. Ask if people have changed their opinion. The people we interviewed in the film, especially the police and the FBI agents, if they've looked back with regrets. I don't think that in general police are the most reflective people on earth. I just don't think so. So. No, I don't think most of the police did not, have not changed their opinion. They were very willing to talk about what happened, and this is what we did, but I think they still saw see the Panthers, in that same way. The FBI agents who were in the film, one of the FBI, the actual FBI agent, Wes Swearingen, is kind of a FBI whistleblower, so he has definitely changed his whole opinion of the FBI, and that's part of his mission, to talk about what he saw in the FBI. William O'Neill, the black guy who kind of was the informer with Fred Hampton, actually that interview was done a while back for Eyes on the Prize, and a little while after it aired on Eyes on the Prize, he ran out in the middle of the highway and got killed, and it's always thought that it was suicide. And I think, a lot of the Panthers, some of them are reflective, let me put it that way, some of the Panthers are reflective, some aren't, and it just depends. And I think, a lot of the Panthers are very wounded, by what happened, and, still. Yeah, there are Panthers who are still in prison. Some of them are getting out. Eddie Conway, you all might know, in Baltimore, spent 44 years in prison. He just got out. The Angola Three, I think the last guy, they almost let him out, and then Louisiana said, no, don't let him out, after I don't know how many years. So, they're still struggling. One of the things we want to try, we will do is to coordinate screenings with some of the groups that are trying to get them out, and use some of the screenings that we have around the country to support trying to get people out of jail. I mean, come on, 44 years is enough.
Judith, I want to bring this back to the work that you do today with grassroots organizations. In this film, we see strategies that work, strategies that didn't work. And I wonder, in the groups that you work with today around issues of racial justice, what do you think that today's organizers have taken away from the past, and in both lessons learned and things that they can take forward in a positive way?
Well, one thing is that that there are infiltrators, and that you need to be aware of that. And that there's and that you just have to, you have to be prepared for the worst. I mean, if you look at Ferguson, we actually brought a lawsuit to stop the tear gassing. What was happening was that tear gassing was being used against the protesters, and basically being done, I mean, like in protesters who are not on the streets. So, for example, there's a cafe which was a safe house for protesters to go to. And what the police would do in order to intimidate the protesters would be to throw tear gas at the front door and at the back door. knowing that people were inside and then would not be able to get out. We were successful in that lawsuit, but I mean, that's the kind of tactic what is happening. What happens in other places is that the police know who the lead protester is, who the leaders are of groups, and they scoop them up first when there's a protest, even if they haven't done anything yet. So there's definitely some lessons in being secretive, leaving your cell phones out the door, but also if you think about the use of the media, right? And now we've got social media, and being able to actually use the media instead of having the media use us, and being able to frame our own narratives is something that was learned from the past. I also think that this movement for Black Lives really is taking framing from the Black liberation movement, right? When you think about people who are walking around with t-shirts that say unapologetically Black, right? There is a sense of pride in the work that is happening. There's also, people also know that we need allies. And so this has become a really Black-led movement with white allies who are helping. And so I think there are a lot of parallels. In Baltimore, one of the things that we did, there's a Baltimore United coalition that's been doing work around police stuff for a while before the death of Freddie Gray, trying to get rid of the Law Enforcement Bill of Rights, which is in state law in Maryland. And one of the things that they did, I remember, Scott, we were in a church filling bags with food, because most of the neighborhoods in Baltimore are food deserts. And so being able to feed the community and using that as an organizing tool to be able to meet the needs of the community, to engage them, to bring them into the work is also being used.
I'm very just struck about your description of Ferguson and what the local police there is doing. One thing that the film draws out is the way there was opposition to this organization, both on a local level and on a national level. And I wonder if you see the kind of opposition that you're describing as being local-based or national-based, or if there's a communication there.
So definitely local-based. Like I said, this most recent thing in the River City FOP, which is being used to intimidate protesters, it's a very local thing. In Baltimore, we've seen the same kind of reaction with police. And so it is, we see the local piece. Nationally, there are a lot of enemies out there against this movement. And I think that, when you see a group of oppressed people who have been in this country, came through slavery, came in shackles, trying to liberate themselves, you are going to find opposition to that. And, what we saw in Charleston is in opposition to that. And so we have to be real. It may come in the way of, we think of individuals, but it is a bigger thing than just a few bad apples. And so no, we're not seeing it out of the federal government yet, because we actually have President Obama. But there are concerns about surveillance. There are serious concerns about surveillance of people. And we know that over time that a lot of the protesters are being targeted. And so I think we're going to see continued opposition, and the backlash has been incredible, unfortunately.
One thing I wanted to ask about, is about any kind of generational passing on the torch between the Panthers that we saw on the screen and, say, their children or grandchildren, like we saw, I guess, in the black and white interview with Fred Hampton's wife, that she had her son with her, and that was right after the shooting. Have there been any passages of any community activity, community action between the parents or grandparents, I guess now, and the children of the Panther movement?
Yeah, they're called Panther Cubs, and and now we're at the Cubs of the Cubs, But yeah, there's a lot of Panther Cubs and the Panther Cubs who are really active. And one thing we're planning to do in different cities is hold screenings, sponsored by the Cubs and the Cubs of Cubs, at different theaters. So we're working to get that done too. I should also say that one of the things, we did a little Kickstarter campaign to raise money to help us with the theatrical, and we raised the $50,000 that we needed, and then we had a week to go, and we said, okay, if we can raise some more money, we're going to have a free screening in Ferguson. And so we did raise the money for that, so we're going to have a free screening in Ferguson. I think it's in late August, and we're going to also, the film also will play for a week in, I think it's the Charles Theater in Baltimore. And it's been very strange because I also have been teaching last term at Morgan State in Baltimore, and it just kind of, anyway, my timing is kind of weird.
Stanley, as the last question, we're talking about passing these things on. Your organization, Firelight Media, does a lot of work with younger filmmakers. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, we run something called the Firelight Media Producers Lab, and we work with between 15 and 20 filmmakers at one time of color, from all over the country to get their films made and on the air. It's been hugely successful. We've had like 15 films on in the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, these are hour-long or longer documentary films that have been on PBS and other channels, mostly PBS. And we've got another 20 that we're working with now, and we're bringing the program all over the country. And it's just been great to see, these filmmakers, younger filmmakers, make incredible films that are on just a whole variety of topics. It's something that we spend a lot of time working on at this point.
I'm pleased to say that. Well, let's hear one more question. If it's quick.
Yeah. One of the things, sadly, we just have to cut for time. Is there was a whole shootout at UCLA between an organization called US, which was another Black nationalist organization, and the Panthers, and Erica Huggins' husband John Huggins was killed. And Bunchy Carter were both killed in that shootout, and it was something that we actually did interviews. We cut the whole story, and we just kind of had to cut it for time, and also because there were just no visuals to really kind of back up the story. That's some of the hardest choices you have to make in making a film. You've got 2 hours, and which is a long time. Look, it's a long time. But you can't make the film any longer. It's not like when you're writing a book. You can say, I'll just have another chapter. I'll put another 20 pages on there. You can't do it. So you have to somehow, you have to make hard choices. And that was probably the last hard choice that we made, was to cut the UCLA shootout, because it's an incredible. It's not even a shootout. The Bunchy and John Huggins were just killed.
I'm pleased to say that Stanley Nelson, some of Stanley's past films are available on the website docclub.com, where I program his film The Black Press and others. People who want to stay in touch with this film, Stanley, where do they go?
Marsha, what is it? TheBlackPanthers.com. See?
Tell your friends. It'll be in this theater September 18th. Thanks very much to Stanley Nelson, Jennifer Lawson, and Judith Brown Dave.
And please, if you have some ideas of groups that we can, hook up with, that would be great. They don't have to put up any money. We just want to fill the theaters. So thank you so much.